at the wide receiver position. My number one pickup of the week, my number one overall, not just at receiver, that is Cedric Tillman, 21% rostered right now. That should be 100% by the end of this week. Absolute star performance here in back-to-back games as well. He has crushed it. 47 PPR fantasy points since Amari Cooper got traded, 25% and 22% target shares these past 2 games. And most recently, 99 yards on 9 targets, 7 catches, 2 touchdowns, including that go-ahead score. Was the absolute man in this game was Cedric Tillman. He had 2 long touchdowns, 22 and 38 yards, but also had that big body on slants, the kind of PPR scam type of routes where they use him on the layups. They use him deep. Kind of reminds me of that Mike Evans role with Jameis Winston so long ago. That's really what Cedric Tillman is doing right now. And I know it's been a while. You know, it's and it's a little bit of a scam offense too. Could you really judge it? And he just has not really gotten onto the field. But since he has gone out here, I mean, we're talking about a big body that had speed in college, and we're really seeing it come to fruition here. The perfect type of guy for Jameis Winston to absolutely pepper. And we mentioned this. Jameis Winston has averaged 277 yards passing per game when he's played over 30% of the snaps. You can compare that to Deshaun Watson, who this year was averaging 170 yards per game. Over 100 more yards per game is humongous for potential wide receiver production. And I know this is not the same Jameis, but there was not that long ago, 2019, where this man threw for 5,000 yards, 30 touchdowns, 30 interceptions, a beautiful disaster to watch. Chris Godwin was the wide receiver 2 in fantasy points per game, and Mike Evans was the wide receiver 3 in points per game that year. So coming off a 24% target share, 35% air yard day, and 38% of the end zone targets going to Cedric Tillman, he to me seems like the clearest cut wide receiver 1 on this team with Jameis Winston, who we know is proven to facilitate massive production. The easy, no-brainer, number 1 ad of the week, worth 50% plus of your fab. If you need a receiver, and who doesn't at this point with all these injuries, I would spend it all. Go get Cedric Tillman. Make sure you add him. The only reason to consider adding anyone else to spend money anywhere elsewhere is the fact that Josh Downs got dropped in a ton of league and patient owners. I got a lot of questions about him on the Sunday stream. Hey, can I drop Josh Downs to pick up XYZ? I don't think there was any that I said yes because of how much contingent upside this guy has. I point out that he is a locked-in top 20 weekly wide receiver if Joe Flacco ever makes starts, and that the team had been rumbling they might start Flacco. So if I told you to drop Downs, please call me out. Let me know. I can't remember a single time, though. I had a lot of people questioning it. And again, he's out there in over half of leagues. So check yours. See if anybody was impatient here. Because let's dive into just how good Josh Downs has been this season with Joe Flacco. 3 games of extensive Joe Flacco action. And how is Josh Downs doing? 19.2 fantasy points per game when Joe Flacco has played at least a quarter of the snaps. That would rank as the wide receiver 6 on this year. Just ahead of Malik Neighbors, CeeDee Lamb, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Drake London. Yeah, that is pretty insane. His fantasy season-long pace with Joe Flacco at quarterback, Josh Downs, 170 targets, 136 catches, 1,230 yards, and 11 touchdowns would be Josh Downs' season-long pace with Joe Flacco. 33%, 27%, and 26% target shares with Flacco in those 3 games. So as much as I love Cedric Tillman, you're probably like, well, I hear those numbers. Why would he not be the clear-cut number 1 blow it all if both those guys are out there? I think the only reason, and I keep actually going back and forth, so hey, the more I talk about Downs, maybe he is the number 1 guy. The one risk there, though, is if this team does not get into playoff contention anytime soon, the Colts, I do think they'll eventually turn it back over to Anthony Richardson. If they're a smart franchise, they want to kind of see what they have in the guy before they decide, do we need to reinvest in this position as early as this next upcoming draft? They might have to. And so they want to probably get another look at Anthony Richardson at some point this year if they fall out of contention. Now, if they stay in contention all year and Flacco could bring them to the playoffs, Josh Downs will be the best pickup of this week and probably of the season if he is out there. There is also the risk that Jameis gets benched. He comes in and has a 4-interception nightmare day, and then the team decides, let's see what we have in DTR. So maybe, just maybe, this is closer than I was initially giving it credit for. Now that I'm weighing it aloud here, it got into my head. If I had to bid on one of these guys, I had all the money and I could pick just one of them, I actually probably would go Josh Downs. but I do know Cedric Tillman's likely to be out there for more of you. Either way, those are the clear-cut tier by themselves pickups of the week, both well worth 50% plus of your fab, especially if you need receiver help, but even if not, just to block your opponents. What is up, you fantasy wolf? Thanks so much for tuning in. If you haven't already, share your thoughts in the comments, check out some more videos, and join the newest Wolfpack by subscribing below.